I still remember the sound. Not the crack of wood splintering against my ribs, but the silence that followed. The silence where my mother stood over me, her chest heaving with rage, her eyes filled with something I can only describe as disgust. My father sipped his coffee in the leather armchair, his gaze as empty as a winter sky. And my sister Serena, she was filming. Recording every second of my humiliation on her phone, her lips curled into a triumphant smile. Where are you watching from today? Drop your location in the comments below and hit that like and subscribe button if you've ever felt your family chose everyone else over you. I was 25 years old, but I felt ancient. Worn down by years of being the family scapegoat, the unwanted daughter, the ghost that haunted the halls of a house that never felt like home. My name is Chloe, and for most of my life, I believed the lie my family told me. That I was worthless. That I should be grateful for the roof over my head. That my younger sister Serena deserved everything while I deserved nothing. My earliest memory is from when I was 5 years old. It was Christmas morning. I remember waking up early, tiptoeing down the stairs in my worn pajamas that had been Serena's hand-me-downs, even though she was 2 years younger than me. The living room was filled with presents, mountains of them under the tree, wrapped in shiny paper with elaborate bows. I was so excited I could barely breathe, but as I got closer I realized something. All the name tags said Serena. Every single one. There were maybe 30 presents under that tree, and not a single one had my name on it. I searched frantically, thinking maybe I had missed one, maybe mine were hidden somewhere else. But there was nothing. Mom came down an hour later and found me sitting on the floor, tears streaming down my face. "What's wrong with you?" she snapped. "Stop that crying. You're going to wake your sister." "Where are my presents?" I asked in a small voice. She looked at me like I had asked for the moon. "You got presents. Those clothes you're wearing. The food in your belly. The roof over your head. What more do you want?" "But Serena has so many. Serena deserves them. She's special. She's going to be somebody. You're just ordinary. Plain. Nothing about you stands out. You should be grateful we even kept you." I was 5 years old and I already knew I wasn't wanted. That knowledge shaped everything that came after. My childhood was a study in contrasts. Serena got ballet lessons and piano lessons and art classes. I got told to stop bothering Mom when I asked if I could join the school choir. Serena got new clothes every season from department stores. I got whatever didn't fit Serena anymore, even though I was older and should have been bigger. Somehow the clothes always fit her better than they ever fit me. When I was 8, I won the school spelling bee. I came home with the trophy, practically bouncing with excitement. Mom glanced at it for 2 seconds. "That's nice. Now go set the table." 3 days later I found it in the trash, buried under coffee grounds. When I asked why, she said it was cluttering up the house. Besides, it wasn't a real achievement, just a participation trophy. I had beaten 40 other kids to win it. At 10, I begged Dad to let me go to science camp. $500 for a week at the university. All my friends were going. $500 is a lot of money, Chloe. He didn't even look up from his papers. "But you just spent $2,000 on Serena's bedroom furniture. That's different. Serena needed it. You don't need science camp." He finally looked at me, his eyes cold. "You're not smart enough to be a scientist anyway. Be realistic about your limitations." I was 10 years old. The pattern never changed. Serena got tutors, laptops, braces, a sweet 16 that cost more than most weddings. She got a BMW at 16, crashed it 3 months later, got another one. I got a job at 14 bagging groceries. I needed money for school supplies, clothes that fit lunch when Mom forgot to pack one. I saved every penny dreaming of escape. But by 18 I was too conditioned to leave. I believed I owed them. That I was a burden they had graciously carried. I got into a state university on partial scholarship. Not Harvard, but good. My chance to reinvent myself. When I told my parents, Mom barely looked up. "Make sure you come home weekends to help with housework. Actually, I'll be staying on campus. To study and work." Dad's head snapped up. "You have work to do here. We've invested a lot in raising you." I wanted to scream. "You invested everything in Serena. I paid for my own everything." But I just nodded and cried into my pillow. College started as paradise. Friends, clubs, good grades. I was thriving. Then Mom's call started. Emergencies every other day. The washing machine broke. Serena needed tutoring. Dad's back hurt. I drove home nearly every weekend that first semester, missing everything that mattered. The emergencies were always fake. The washing machine just needed resetting. Serena wanted me to do her homework. Dad's back was fine. Sophomore year, Mom called while I was studying for a chemistry exam. We need money, cash flow issues. Dad made over $200,000 a year. How much? $2,000. Serena's sorority fees and spring break trip. We'll pay you back next month. I made minimum wage at the campus bookstore. The guilt crushed me. I can give you $500. That's all I can spare. Fine. Transfer it tonight. Don't tell your father. They never paid me back. 500 became 1,000, became 2,000 over the next 2 years. Serena's laptop. Serena's textbooks that she never bought. Serena's apartment with the rooftop pool. I graduated with $30,000 in debt and $200 in savings. But I had a job offer. $40,000 a year at a marketing firm. It was mine. I found a studio apartment. Questionable neighborhood, $800 a month. I moved in with a used mattress, an IKEA desk, Target kitchen supplies. That night, eating Chinese takeout on my mattress, I felt like I had won the lottery. Mom called the next morning. You got an apartment. Why didn't you come home? You could live here rent-free. I need to be close to work. I need my own space. After everything we've done for you, you're abandoning us. I'm 22. I'm starting my career. This is what people do. Ungrateful. That's what you are. Completely ungrateful. She hung up on me. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling sick. Was I ungrateful? Was I wrong to want my own life? I pushed the thoughts away and focused on getting ready for my first day of work. The marketing firm was small, only 20 employees, but it was a good place to learn. My boss was a woman named Patricia who actually seemed to respect my ideas. My coworkers were friendly. I was doing real work, building real skills. For the first time in my life, I felt valued. But the peace didn't last long. 6 months into my job, Mom called again. Chloe, we need you to come home. Your father lost his job. What, how? There were some irregularities with his accounts. The company let him go. We're going to have to tighten our belts for a while. We can't afford to keep the house unless you help out. Help out how? We need you to move back home and contribute rent. Just $1,500 a month. That's reasonable. $1,500 a month. That's almost everything I make after taxes and my student loan payments. Exactly. So you can afford it, unless you want your family to end up homeless. What about Serena? Is she contributing? Serena is still in school. She can't work and study at the same time. I worked all through school. Serena isn't you. She needs to focus on her grades. I wanted to say no. Every fiber of my being screamed at me to say no, but that familiar guilt wrapped around me like chains. If I said no and they lost the house, it would be my fault. I would be the bad daughter who abandoned her family in their time of need. I gave them $1,200 a month. I told them it was all I could spare. It meant I was living on ramen noodles and peanut butter sandwiches. It meant I couldn't afford new work clothes when my only pair of dress pants got a hole in them. It meant I was back to living paycheck to paycheck with nothing left over for savings. But at least they had the house. Except a year later, I found out Dad hadn't actually lost his job. He had quit because he was starting a consulting business. A business that was doing quite well. They didn't need my money. They had never needed my money. They just wanted it because I was easy to manipulate. I found out through Serena, of all people. She posted on Instagram about Dad's new office space, this beautiful modern office in a high-rise downtown. Congratulations to Dad on his successful first year in business. So proud. I called Mom immediately. You told me Dad lost his job. He did lose his job. Then what's this about his consulting business? Oh, that. Well, he had to do something. But it's barely breaking even. Serena's post says he's celebrating a successful first year. Serena doesn't understand business. She's exaggerating. So you don't need my money anymore. Silence. Then we've been supporting Serena. She needs help getting started after graduation. We need every bit we can get. I'm done. I'm not giving you any more money. Excuse me. You lied to me. You manipulated me. You took my money under false pretenses. I'm done. How dare you speak to me like that? After everything we've sacrificed for you, what have you sacrificed? Name one thing you've sacrificed for me. We gave you a home, we fed you, we clothed you. Those are the bare minimum requirements of being a parent. You didn't do me some huge favor. And you gave Serena so much more than the bare minimum. So don't talk to me about sacrifice. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I had never spoken to my mother like that before. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt terrified. But a small part of me felt free. She called back 20 times. I didn't answer. She left voicemails calling me selfish, ungrateful, a terrible daughter. Dad left one voicemail. Just one. His voice was cold and measured. "You're making a mistake, Chloe. Family is everything. You'll regret this." I didn't regret it. Not at first. I kept my distance for 3 months. It was the most peaceful 3 months of my life. I got a small raise at work. I started saving money again. I bought myself a new pair of work pants and a nice blouse, and it felt like a luxury. I went out with coworkers for happy hour. I joined a book club. I started to build a life. But then Serena called. Not Mom, not Dad, Serena. And her voice was different, scared. "Chloe, I need help." "What's wrong?" "I'm in trouble. Real trouble. I got arrested." "Arrested for what?" "DUI. I was at a party and I drove home and I got pulled over and I failed the breathalyzer. Mom and Dad are furious. They're saying they won't help me. I need money for a lawyer. Please, Chloe. You're my sister." And despite everything, despite years of being treated like dirt, despite knowing she had never once helped me or shown me kindness, I felt that familiar pull. The need to fix things. To be the responsible one. To save the day. "How much do you need?" $5,000 for the retainer." $5,000, Serena, I don't have that kind of money. "Please. I'll pay you back. I promise. If I don't get a good lawyer, I could go to jail." I knew she wouldn't pay me back. I knew this was just another manipulation. But she was my sister, and despite everything, some part of me still loved her. Or at least loved the idea of having a sister who loved me back. I emptied my savings account. All of it. $4,000. I borrowed another $1,000 from my credit card. I sent it to her. She thanked me profusely, promised she would never forget this, swore she would pay me back within 6 months. 2 weeks later, she posted photos from a beach vacation in the Bahamas. Designer bikini, expensive cocktails, bottle service at a club. I felt sick. I texted her. "I thought you needed money for a lawyer." I did. Dad ended up paying for it. "But thanks for the offer. I sent you $5,000. "Oh, right. Yeah, I'll pay you back eventually. Don't be so uptight about money." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. Instead, I just blocked her number. I was done. Truly done. No more helping. No more sacrificing. No more being the family doormat. I thought that would be the end of it. I thought I had finally drawn my line in the sand. But I was wrong, because 6 months later they found a new way to drag me back in. Mom called from the hospital. "Dad's had a heart attack. You need to come now." I dropped everything and drove to the hospital, my heart pounding. Despite everything, he was still my father. I didn't want him to die. I got to the ER and found Mom in the waiting room. She looked composed. Too composed for someone whose husband just had a heart attack. "Is he okay?" "Where is he?" "He's in surgery." "It was bad, Chloe. Really bad. The doctors say it's going to be a long recovery. He'll need full-time care. I'll help however I can." "Good. Because we're going to need you to move back home. He can't be left alone, and I can't quit my book club and my tennis lessons to be a full-time nurse." "Wait. What, you want me to quit my job and move home to take care of Dad? You're his daughter. It's your responsibility." "What about Serena?" "Serena has a job now. She can't just leave." "I have a job too." "Your job isn't important. You can find another receptionist position anywhere." "I'm not a receptionist. I'm a marketing coordinator. And I've worked hard for this position." "So you're saying you won't help your own father?" "I'm saying I can't quit my job and upend my entire life. I can help in other ways. I can visit on weekends. I can help find a home health aide. But I can't move back." "Selfish. Just like always. Only thinking of yourself." A nurse called us back before I could respond. We went into the recovery room where Dad was lying in the hospital bed looking pale but stable. The doctor came in and explained that the heart attack had been mild. Dad would need to make lifestyle changes and take medication, but he would be fine. He could go home in 2 days and would be able to return to normal activities within a few weeks. Mild. The heart attack was mild. But Mom had made it sound like he was dying. Another manipulation. Another lie designed to control me. I stayed for 2 hours, made sure Dad was comfortable, and then I left. I didn't move back home. I didn't quit my job. I visited twice over the next month, bringing groceries and checking in. But I held my boundaries. And it felt good. That should have been my happy ending. Learning to say no. Building my own life. Breaking free from their control. But life isn't that simple. Because a year later, everything fell apart in a way I never could have imagined. I was 25. Still at the same marketing firm now, a senior coordinator. Still in my tiny studio apartment. Still single, because I had trust issues and commitment issues and a general belief that I wasn't worthy of love. But I was okay. I was surviving. I was even occasionally happy. Then one ordinary Tuesday morning, everything changed. I was getting ready for work when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Is this Chloe Williams? Yes. Who's this? This is Detective Maria Santos with the Financial Crimes Unit. I need to ask you some questions about your parents, Eleanor and Richard Williams. My blood went cold. What kind of questions? We're investigating them for fraud. Multiple types of fraud, actually. And your name has come up in our investigation. I need you to come down to the station to give a statement. I don't understand. What do they have to do with me? I can't discuss details over the phone. Can you come in today? I called in sick to work and drove to the police station. Detective Santos was a short woman with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She sat me down in an interview room and pulled out a thick folder. Miss Williams, are you aware that your parents have been collecting disability benefits in your name for the past 7 years? What? No. I'm not disabled. That's what we thought. But they've been receiving $1,200 a month claiming that you're unable to work due to a severe anxiety disorder and require their full-time care. I live on my own. I have a job. I've never applied for disability. We know. That's fraud. But that's not all. She opened the folder and spread out documents. There's also a life insurance policy on you. $500,000. Your parents are the sole beneficiaries. A life insurance policy, I didn't sign up for that. You were 18 when it was taken out. Legally, they needed your signature. Did you sign anything around that time? I tried to think back. It was so long ago. Wait. Yes, Dad had me sign some papers. He said it was for college financial aid, but I never actually got any aid beyond what I applied for myself. Those weren't financial aid forms. That was a life insurance application. I felt dizzy. They took out a life insurance policy on me. Why would they do that? Detective Santos looked at me with something like pity. I can't speculate, but I can tell you that we've been building a case against your parents for several months. The disability fraud was what got our attention initially. An anonymous tip came in claiming they were collecting benefits for a daughter who didn't actually live with them. When we started digging, we found the insurance policy. And then we found other things. Tax evasion. Embezzlement from your father's former employer, which is why he really left that job. Money laundering through offshore accounts. I sat there in stunned silence. My parents were criminals. Actual criminals. And they had been using me as part of their schemes. Miss Williams, I need to know. Have they ever asked you for money? Have they had access to your bank accounts? Have you signed anything else for them over the years? I told her everything. The years of manipulation. The thousands of dollars I had given them. The way they had controlled and exploited me. By the time I finished, she was taking notes rapidly. You're a victim here, she said. They've been financially abusing you for years. This goes beyond fraud. This is exploitation. What happens now? Now we finish building our case, and I'm going to need you to help us. Would you be willing to testify? I didn't even hesitate. Yes. Over the next 2 weeks, I met with Detective Santos 4 more times. I provided bank statements showing all the money I had given them. I wrote out detailed timelines of their requests and manipulations. I gave them access to my email and text messages. Everything was evidence. And then she asked me something unexpected. Would you be willing to go back home? To gather more evidence, we could set you up with a wire. Record your conversations with them. It would strengthen our case significantly. Go back home, the thought made me sick. But it also made me angry. Years and years of being used and manipulated and treated like nothing. Maybe it was time for them to face consequences. I'll do it. The plan was simple. I would call Mom and tell her I wanted to reconcile. That I had been thinking about what she said and I felt guilty for abandoning the family. I would ask if I could come over for dinner. Once I was there, I would steer conversations toward money, toward the disability benefits, toward anything that could be used as evidence. The wire would record everything. I made the call on a Friday afternoon. Mom answered on the 3rd ring. Chloe. I didn't expect to hear from you. Hi, Mom. I wanted to talk. I've been thinking a lot about our last conversation. About family. And I think maybe I overreacted. I was wondering if I could come over for dinner this weekend. I'd like to try to fix things. Silence. Then, well. This is unexpected. Hold on, let me ask your father. I heard muffled conversation in the background. Then she came back on the line. Sunday dinner. 6 o'clock. Don't be late. I spent the weekend sick with anxiety. Detective Santos had given me a small recording device that clipped inside my bra. It was nearly invisible and the sound quality was excellent. I practiced natural conversation starters in my mirror. I read through questions the detective wanted answered. I prepared myself for whatever might happen. Sunday evening, I pulled up to my childhood home. The house looked the same. Perfect lawn, perfect flower beds, perfect exterior hiding the rot inside. I sat in my car for 5 minutes trying to calm my racing heart. You can do this. You can do this. I rang the doorbell. Serena answered. She looked surprised to see me. Oh, you're actually here. Mom invited me. Yeah, she mentioned. Come in, I guess. The house smelled like pot roast. Mom's signature dish that she only made for special occasions. I guess my return counted as special. I walked into the kitchen and found Mom setting the table. She looked up and gave me a tight smile. Chloe, you look thin. Are you eating properly? I'm fine, Mom. Where's Dad? In his study. He'll be out shortly. Serena, go tell your father dinner is ready. Serena rolled her eyes but complied. I stood awkwardly in the kitchen, unsure what to do with my hands. The recording device felt like it was burning against my skin, even though I knew it was invisible. So Mom said, not looking at me. You said you wanted to talk. Yes. I've been thinking about how I've been handling things. I think maybe I was too harsh. You and Dad did raise me. I do owe you something. I saw her posture relax slightly. Well, it's good that you're finally seeing reason. Dad walked in then, Serena trailing behind him. He nodded at me curtly. Chloe. Hi, Dad. How are you feeling after the heart attack? Fine. Fully recovered. Turns out I'm tougher than everyone thought. We sat down for dinner. The conversation was stilted at first. Polite comments about the weather. About Serena's new job at a marketing agency, which of course was better than my job even though she had half my experience. About Dad's consulting business that was apparently thriving. Then Mom brought it up. You know, Chloe, since you're here, there's something we need to discuss. We could really use your help with something. What kind of help? Financial help. Things have been tight lately. The business isn't doing as well as we'd hoped. We're behind on some bills. I thought the business was thriving. Dad shifted uncomfortably. It has good months and bad months. This has been a bad quarter. How much do you need? Just a couple thousand. To help with the mortgage and utilities. What about the disability payments? I kept my voice casual. Don't you get money from the government to help with expenses? Mom's fork froze halfway to her mouth. What disability payments? You know, the ones you told me about a while back. For taking care of me when I was younger. The anxiety disorder. I saw something flash across her face. Fear, maybe. Or calculation. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. You said the government was giving you money because I needed full-time care. Because I couldn't work. That was a long time ago. That ended when you moved out. Did it? I tilted my head. Because I called the Social Security office and they said you're still collecting benefits in my name. The room went silent. Dad set down his knife and fork slowly. His eyes were on Mom. Eleanor, it's nothing. Just a misunderstanding. The paperwork probably hasn't been processed yet. The paperwork should have been processed years ago. Unless you never filed it. Unless you've been collecting money for a disability I don't have. Serena was looking between us, confusion on her face. What's going on? Nothing, Mom snapped. Your sister is making accusations. I'm not making accusations. I'm stating facts. You've been committing fraud. Disability fraud. And I found out about the life insurance policy too. The one you took out on me without my knowledge. Dad's face went red. How dare you come into this house and make these ridiculous claims? They're not ridiculous. The police are investigating you. Both of you. For fraud. For embezzlement. For tax evasion. They know everything. You're lying, Mom said, but her voice shook. I'm not. And I've been cooperating with them. I've given them all my records. All the money you took from me over the years. All your lies. All your manipulation. Dad stood up abruptly, his chair scraping across the floor. You ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've done for you. What have you done for me? You took out a life insurance policy on me like I was a lottery ticket. You stole government money in my name. You manipulated me into giving you thousands of dollars I couldn't afford. You treated me like a servant my entire life. So tell me, Dad, what exactly have you done for me? We gave you life. Mom was standing now too, her face twisted with rage. We could have aborted you, but we didn't. You should be thanking us every day for even existing. Is that what you think parenting is? Not aborting your kid, that's the bar. You've always been difficult. Always been selfish. Always thought you were better than us. I never thought I was better than you. I just wanted to be treated like I mattered. Like I was worth something. But you couldn't even give me that. Dad moved toward me, and for a second I thought he might actually hit me. Instead, he grabbed my arm, his fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Get out of my house. Gladly. I pulled my arm free. But just so you know, this conversation has been recorded. Everything you said. The police have everything they need now. Mom's face went white. You wore a wire. You came into our home wearing a wire. You committed crimes. You used me to commit crimes. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Serena finally found her voice. Chloe, what the hell? You betrayed our family. This isn't a family. Families don't steal from each other. Families don't take out life insurance policies hoping the insured person dies. Families don't lie and manipulate and abuse. I walked out. Behind me I heard Mom screaming, Dad cursing, Serena crying. I got in my car, drove 2 blocks away and pulled over. Then I called Detective Santos. I got it all. Everything you needed. Perfect. Come to the station. We need to download the recording and get your statement while it's fresh. At the station, they took the wire and had me listen to the recording to verify its accuracy. Hearing it played back was surreal. Mom's admission about the disability payments, Dad's rage, the way they had confirmed everything through their reactions and defensive statements. It was damning. What happens now? I asked. Now we move forward with arrests. Probably within the next 48 hours. Are you somewhere safe? They might try to contact you. I'm staying with a friend. I had actually asked Daniel, my coworker, if I could crash on his couch for a few days. He had immediately said yes, no questions asked. Good. Stay there. Don't answer calls from them. Don't engage. Let us handle it. I spent that night on Daniel's couch, unable to sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Mom's face twisted with rage. Heard Dad's voice calling me ungrateful. Saw Serena's tears. Part of me felt guilty. They were still my family despite everything. But a larger part of me felt relief. Finally, after 25 years, they would face consequences for their actions. Daniel made me breakfast the next morning. Scrambled eggs and toast coffee with cream the way I liked it. He sat across from me at his small kitchen table and studied my face. You okay? I don't know. I will be, I think. Eventually. What you did took guts. A lot of people couldn't have done that. I didn't have a choice. They were never going to stop. Never going to change. This was the only way. Still, it was brave. I met his eyes. He had kind eyes. Brown and warm and safe. Why are you being so nice to me? You barely know me. He smiled. I know you well enough. You're smart, hardworking, and you deserve way better than what your family put you through. Plus, you make the best presentations at work. That alone is worth helping you out. I laughed despite everything. It felt good to laugh. It felt good to be somewhere I was wanted, where I wasn't being used or manipulated. Just appreciated for being me. My phone rang. Unknown number. Then another. Then another. Text messages started flooding in. First from Mom's number. Then Dad's. Then Serena's. Even numbers I didn't recognize, probably extended family they had called to rally against me. I turned off my phone. Whatever they had to say, I didn't want to hear it. The arrests happened on Tuesday morning. Detective Santos called me from the station line to let me know. Eleanor and Richard Williams had been taken into custody at their home at 6 a.m. Serena had been brought in for questioning as an accomplice, but was released pending further investigation. All 3 were being charged with multiple counts of fraud and theft. How do you feel? The detective asked. Numb, I said honestly. Just numb. That's normal. This is going to be a process. The trial probably won't happen for several months. Are you prepared for that? I have to be. The news hit local media that afternoon. Mid-level finance consultant and wife arrested for fraud scheme involving disabled daughter. Except I wasn't disabled and the daughter was me, and the whole thing was a lie. My phone started ringing off the hook once I turned it back on. Reporters wanting comments. Distant relatives I hadn't heard from in years suddenly concerned about my well-being. Friends from high school reaching out to say they always knew something was off about my family. I didn't respond to any of them. I just went to work, did my job, went back to Daniel's apartment, and tried to process everything. A week after the arrests, I got a call from a lawyer named Marcus Chen. He specialized in fraud cases and victim restitution. Miss Williams, I've been following your case. I'd like to represent you in recovering the money your parents stole from you. The disability payments, the funds you gave them under duress, potentially compensation from the life insurance policy that was fraudulently obtained. You could be looking at a significant settlement. I don't have money for a lawyer. I work on contingency. I only get paid if you get paid. And based on what I've seen, you have a very strong case. We met the next day. Marcus was young, maybe 30, with sharp suits and sharper instincts. He outlined everything we could potentially recover. The 100,000 in disability payments, the tens of thousands I had given them over the years, damages for emotional distress, punitive damages. It could add up to over $300,000, not including whatever came from the insurance policy investigation. But here's what I want you to understand, Marcus said, leaning forward. This is going to get ugly. Your parents will fight this. They'll try to paint you as a vindictive daughter lying for money. They'll bring up every mistake you've ever made. They'll try to destroy your credibility. Are you prepared for that? I thought about it for a long moment. Was I prepared to have my life dissected in court, to face my parents and hear them try to justify what they had done? To potentially lose because sometimes the legal system fails and bad people win? Yes, I said. I'm prepared. Because even if I lose, at least I fought back. At least I tried. That's more than I've done my entire life. Good, let's make them pay. The next few months were a blur of depositions and evidence gathering. I had to relive every painful memory, every manipulation, every moment of abuse. Marcus's team was thorough. They interviewed my former coworkers who had witnessed me struggling financially. They pulled records from my bank accounts showing the transfers to my parents. They got statements from my landlord about the times I had been late on rent because I had given money to my family. They built an airtight case. My parents hired a good lawyer, too. Gerald something or other, a silver-haired man in expensive suits who specialized in white-collar crime. He tried every trick in the book, claimed I was a troubled young woman with a history of lying, brought up the time I had failed a math test in 10th grade as evidence of my incompetence, suggested I was mentally unstable and making up stories for attention, but the evidence didn't lie. The recordings, the documents, the witness statements, it all painted a clear picture of years of systematic abuse and exploitation. The criminal trial for my parents happened first. I had to testify. Walking into that courtroom was one of the hardest things I've ever done. Mom and Dad sat at the defense table looking smaller than I remembered. Mom had aged years in just months. Her hair was grayer, her face gaunt. Dad looked defeated, his shoulders slumped. Serena sat in the gallery behind them, glaring at me with pure hatred. The prosecutor asked me to tell my story. I did. All of it. My voice shook at first, but grew stronger as I went on. I told them about the Christmas with no presents, about the spelling bee trophy in the trash, about being told I wasn't smart enough to be a scientist, about every dollar they had manipulated out of me, about finding out about the disability fraud and the life insurance policy. When the defense cross-examined me, Gerald tried to shake my testimony. Isn't it true that your parents provided you with food and shelter for 18 years? Yes. And they never physically harmed you as a child. My mother hit me multiple times. The worst was when she threw a chair at me and cracked my ribs. But you never reported that to authorities, did you? I was 25 and scared and conditioned to believe I deserved it. So no, I didn't report it then. But I'm reporting it now. Isn't it possible you're exaggerating these events because you're angry your parents didn't give you as much as they gave your sister? No. I'm testifying about these events because they're true and they're crimes. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they came back, the verdict was unanimous. Guilty on all counts. Wire fraud, disability fraud, insurance fraud, tax evasion, the embezzlement charges from Dad's previous employer. Everything. The judge sentenced them 2 weeks later. 7 years in federal prison for both of them, eligible for parole after 5. They would also have to pay full restitution of the disability payments plus fines and penalties. The life insurance policy was voided, and the insurance company would be conducting their own investigation into whether any criminal charges should be filed against the agent who helped them set it up. Serena's case was more complicated. She hadn't been directly involved in the fraud schemes, but she had benefited from them. She had known something was wrong but had chosen to look the other way. She eventually pleaded to a lesser charge of accessory after the fact. 2 years probation, community service, and a $10,000 fine. But I wasn't done. My civil case was still pending. Marcus filed suit against my parents for the money they had taken from me over the years, plus damages for emotional distress. The case was strong, but it would take time to work through the system. In the meantime, I had to rebuild my life. I finally moved out of Daniel's apartment and got my own place. A real place this time, not a studio, but a one-bedroom in a decent neighborhood. I could afford it with my salary, and without having to support my parents. It felt like a palace. Daniel and I had grown close during those months. I stayed with him. He had been there for every breakdown, every moment of doubt, every small victory. One night, about 3 months after the criminal trial ended, we were sitting on his couch, watching a movie when he paused it and turned to me. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you think you'll ever be able to trust people again, after everything?" I thought about it. Honestly, I don't know. My own family betrayed me in the worst possible ways. How do I know anyone else won't do the same? You don't. He reached for my hand. But not everyone is like them. Some people are genuine. Some people care about you without wanting something in return. How do I know which is which? You take a chance. You let people in slowly. You watch for red flags. And you trust your gut. Your gut knew something was wrong with your family. You just ignored it for too long. What if I make the same mistake again? Then you'll learn and do better next time. But Chloe, you can't live your whole life afraid of being hurt. That's not living. That's just surviving. I looked at our joined hands. His hand was warm, solid, real. Is this you telling me you want to be more than friends? This is me telling you that I care about you. A lot. And I'd like to see where this goes. But only if you want to. No pressure. No expectations. Just honest feelings. I do want to, but I'm scared. That's okay. We'll take it slow. And we did. We took it so slow it was almost comical. Our first kiss didn't happen until 2 months later. We didn't sleep together for 6 months. Every step was careful, considered, discussed. He was patient in a way I didn't know men could be. He never pushed. Never demanded. Just waited for me to be ready. The civil trial finally happened a year after the criminal conviction. By then, my parents were both in prison, and I hadn't seen them or spoken to them since the day they were sentenced. Serena had tried to contact me a few times, mostly to call me names and tell me I had ruined the family. I blocked her after the third message. The civil trial was shorter than the criminal one. Most of the evidence had already been presented. The judge reviewed everything and made his ruling. My parents owed me $123,000 in restitution for the disability payments and documented transfers I had made to them. They owed me $50,000 in damages for emotional distress. They owed me another $30,000 for the fraudulent life insurance policy. Total $203,000. I would probably never see most of that money. They were in prison and would be for years. Their assets had been seized to pay their fines and restitution to the government, but the victory wasn't about the money. It was about the validation. A judge had looked at all the evidence and said, yes, what they did to you was wrong. You were a victim. You deserve compensation. That meant more to me than any dollar amount ever could. The insurance company also settled with me separately. They had been conducting their own investigation and determined that the agent who set up the policy had been negligent at best, complicit at worst. They offered me a $100,000 settlement to avoid further legal action. Marcus negotiated them up to $150,000. After his fees, I walked away with $110,000. It wasn't the full $500,000 the policy had been worth, but it was enough. More than enough. For the first time in my life, I had financial security. I paid off my student loans, put a down payment on a small condo, started a savings account with a cushion that meant I would never have to scramble to make rent again. Started a retirement fund. The rest I invested. I also started therapy. Real intensive therapy with a psychologist who specialized in family trauma and abuse. Doctor Sarah Klein was in her 50s with gray hair she wore in a long braid and a gentle manner that made me feel safe. We met twice a week for the first 6 months, then once a week after that. She helped me understand that I had been conditioned from childhood to accept abuse, that the patterns my parents set had trained me to believe I was worthless, that I owed them everything, that my needs didn't matter. She helped me work through the guilt I felt about turning them in, the complicated grief of losing my family even though they were toxic, the fear that I would never be able to have healthy relationships because I didn't know what healthy looked like. It was hard work. Some sessions I cried until I couldn't breathe. Some sessions I was so angry I wanted to break things. Some sessions I sat in silence because the feelings were too big for words. But slowly, gradually, I started to heal. I learned to set boundaries, to say no without guilt, to prioritize my own needs, to recognize manipulation when it was happening, to trust my instincts, to believe I was worthy of love and respect. Daniel and I moved in together 2 years after we started dating. It was a big step for me sharing space with someone being vulnerable like that. But he made it easy. He respected my need for alone time. He never pushed me to talk when I wasn't ready. He showed up consistently day after day, proving through his actions that he was safe. We got engaged a year after that. He proposed on the anniversary of the day I moved out of his apartment, the day I had started building my real life. We were back on that couch where we had spent so many nights talking and healing and falling in love. He got down on one knee and pulled out a ring and said, "You're the strongest person I've ever met. You took your trauma and turned it into strength. You saved yourself. And I want to spend the rest of my life supporting you the way you've learned to support yourself. Will you marry me?" I said yes through happy tears. The kind of tears that heal instead of hurt. We got married in a small ceremony with just close friends. No family. I had built my own family by then, one of choice instead of blood. People who showed up for me, who celebrated my successes, who supported me through hard times, who loved me without conditions or expectations. My parents were released from prison 4 years after they were sentenced. They had served their time and were now on parole. I got a notification about their release from the Victim Services Office. They asked if I wanted to be notified of their whereabouts. I said no. They were part of my past, not my future. But life has a funny way of bringing the past back around whether you want it or not. I ran into them by accident about 6 months after their release. Daniel and I were at the grocery store doing our weekly shopping. We were in the produce section debating between red and green grapes when I heard a voice I hadn't heard in years. "Excuse me, can you tell me where the canned vegetables are?" I turned around and there was Mom. She looked so much older. Her hair was completely white now, cut short in a practical style. She wore a store uniform, a name tag that said Eleanor. She worked here, at the same grocery store where I had worked as a teenager. Our eyes met. I saw recognition dawn, then shock, then something that might have been shame. "Chloe. Eleanor." I was surprised at how steady my voice was. "You look good. Healthy. Thanks. Is this your husband? Fiancé?" "Daniel." I squeezed his hand. "Daniel, this is Eleanor." Daniel knew exactly who she was. He nodded politely but didn't offer his hand. "Ma'am." An awkward silence stretched between us. Other shoppers moved around us, oblivious to the weight of this moment. "I'm glad you're doing well," Mom finally said. "I wanted to reach out after I got out, but my lawyer said I shouldn't contact you unless you initiated it." That was good advice. She flinched. "I deserve that. I deserve a lot worse than that." "Yes, you do." "For what it's worth," she said, her voice cracking, "I'm sorry. I know that doesn't mean anything. I know sorry doesn't fix what I did. But I am sorry. I was a terrible mother. I was cruel and manipulative, and I treated you like you didn't matter when you were the only thing that should have mattered. I'm sorry." I looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who had given birth to me but never really been a mother. Who had taken every opportunity to tear me down instead of build me up. Who had stolen from me and lied to me and hurt me in ways I was still learning to heal from. And I felt nothing. Not anger. Not satisfaction. Not even pity. Just emptiness. "I appreciate you saying that," I said, "but it doesn't change anything. You made choices. You lived with the consequences. I've moved on." "I understand." She wiped at her eyes. "Can I ask how Serena is? She won't talk to me anymore." "I don't know. I haven't spoken to her in years." "Oh, right. Of course." Mom took a shaky breath. "Well, I should get back to work. It was good to see you. Even if just this once." She walked away. I watched her go, this woman who used to loom so large in my life now just a stranger in a grocery store uniform. Daniel pulled me close. "You okay?" "Yeah. I am. I really am." We finished our shopping and went home. That night, lying in bed next to Daniel, I thought about that encounter. I had imagined running into my parents 1,000 times over the years. In my imagination, I always had the perfect cutting remarks. The devastating comebacks. The words that would make them understand exactly how much they had hurt me. But in reality, I didn't need any of that. Their lives had become the consequence of their actions. Mom working a minimum wage job in her 60s. Dad, I later found out from a Google search, was working as a night security guard. They lived in a small apartment in the worst part of town. They had no savings, no assets, no prospects. Their reputation was destroyed. Their friends had abandoned them. Even Serena had cut them off. They had destroyed themselves more thoroughly than I ever could have. A few months later, I got a letter from Dad. It was forwarded through my lawyer since he didn't have my address. Marcus called to ask if I wanted to read it or if he should just shred it. I thought about it for a long time. Send it to me. The letter arrived a week later. I let it sit on my kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it. Daniel offered to read it first to protect me from whatever was inside. But I needed to do this myself. The letter was handwritten on cheap notebook paper. Dad's handwriting was shakier than I remembered. Dear Chloe, I don't expect you to read this. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect anything from you anymore except maybe that you're living a good life away from us. I hope you are. I've had a lot of time to think these past few years. In prison and therapy, they make us attend in the long nights working security shifts where there's nothing to do but think. I've thought about everything I did wrong. Everything your mother and I did wrong. And there's so much. You were never the problem. You were never worthless or burdensome or any of the things we said. You were a beautiful, smart, capable child who deserved love and support and encouragement. Instead, we gave you neglect and cruelty and exploitation. We treated you like you were less than human. Less than deserving of basic respect and kindness. I can make excuses. I can say I was raised the same way. That my father told me I was worthless, so I passed that pain to you. That I was under financial pressure and made bad choices. That your mother had her own demons that made her lash out. But none of that matters. None of that justifies what we did. We saw you as a resource, as something to use. When you were young, you were the responsible one who took care of things so we didn't have to. When you were older, you were a source of money and labor. We never saw you as a person with your own needs and dreams and value. That was our failure. Our moral bankruptcy. I know I destroyed your childhood. I know I damaged you in ways that might never fully heal. I know you probably have trust issues and relationship problems and anxiety, and 1,000 other things that trace back to how we treated you. I know I can never make that right. But I want you to know that you were right to turn us in. You were right to testify. You were right to pursue justice. We deserved every consequence we faced. And if there's any justice in the universe, you're thriving now in ways we never allowed you to thrive before. I don't ask for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. I just ask that you know the truth. You were always worthy of love, always deserving of respect, always enough exactly as you were. We were the ones who were broken. We were the ones who failed. Not you. Never you. I hope you have people in your life who treat you the way you should have always been treated. I hope you're happy. I hope you've healed as much as possible from what we did. And I hope you never think of me again. Your father, Richard. I read the letter 3 times. Daniel found me on the couch, tears streaming down my face, the letter crumpled in my hands. What did it say? I handed it to him. He read it silently, his expression growing darker with each line. When he finished, he set it down carefully and pulled me into his arms. How do you feel? I don't know. It's what I always wanted to hear, that it wasn't my fault, that I was worthy, that they were wrong. But it's too late. The damage is done. What do you want to do with it? I want to burn it. I want to throw it away and pretend I never read it. I want to send him a letter back telling him exactly what his neglect cost me. I want 1,000 different things. But what will you actually do? I'm going to put it in a box. And maybe someday when I've healed more, when I don't feel so raw, I'll read it again and see if I can find any forgiveness in my heart. But not today. Today I'm just going to feel what I feel and let that be enough. That's fair. He kissed my forehead. That's more than fair. I did put the letter in a box, along with copies of the court documents and newspaper articles and everything else from that chapter of my life. I put the box in the back of my closet and I didn't look at it for a long time. Life moved on. Daniel and I got married in the spring. It was a beautiful small wedding at a botanical garden surrounded by flowers and the people who mattered. My friend from work walked me down the aisle since I had no father to do it. I didn't miss having my family there. The family I had built was more real than the one I was born into ever was. We honeymooned in Italy. 2 weeks of pasta and wine and ancient history and falling even more in love. It was perfect. Healing. A celebration of the life I had built from the ashes of the one that had been forced on me. I started my own marketing consulting business a year after the wedding. After years of working for other people, I wanted to be my own boss. To control my own time and energy. To never again be in a position where someone else had power over me. The business grew slowly but steadily. I was good at what I did, and word of mouth brought me more clients than I could handle. Daniel supported me through every growing pain. Every late night working on proposals. Every moment of self-doubt when I wondered if I was actually capable of running a business. He believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. 5 years after my parents were released from prison, I got another letter. This one from Serena. My first instinct was to throw it away unread. But curiosity got the better of me. Chloe, I don't know if you'll read this. I don't know if you'll care. But I need to say it anyway. You were right. About everything. About Mom and Dad. About how they treated you. About the fraud and the manipulation and all of it. You were right and I was wrong. I've spent the last few years in therapy trying to understand why I was so okay with how they treated you. Why I participated in your abuse. Why I thought it was funny when they hurt you. The therapist says I was conditioned too. That I learned from them that some people matter and some people don't. That I was taught your pain didn't count. But that's an explanation, not an excuse. I was cruel to you. I was complicit in your abuse. I benefited from it and never once questioned if it was wrong. I laughed when Mom hit you with that chair. I filmed it. I posted videos of you suffering for likes on social media. I took your money and your time and your energy and gave you nothing but contempt in return. I can't take any of that back. I can't undo the damage. But I can acknowledge it. I can say that you deserved so much better. That you deserved a sister who protected you instead of one who joined in the abuse. That I failed you in every possible way. I'm not asking for forgiveness or reconciliation. I'm just asking you to know that I see it now. I understand what was done to you. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I hope you're happy. I hope you have everything you ever wanted. You deserve that and so much more. Serena, I showed Daniel the letter that night. He read it and shook his head. What do you want to do? Nothing. I don't owe her a response. I don't owe her anything. Do you feel better? Having read it, I thought about it. A little. It's validating. But it doesn't change anything. She participated in my abuse for 20 years. A letter doesn't fix that. No, it doesn't. He took my hand. But it's good that she recognizes what she did. Even if it's too late. Yeah, it is. I never responded to Serena's letter. Maybe that makes me cold or unforgiving. But I had spent 25 years being expected to forgive and forget and move on from abuse. I was done with that. Some things don't deserve forgiveness. Some wounds don't heal just because someone says sorry. Instead, I focused on my present and my future. Daniel and I talked about having kids. It was a scary conversation for me. What if I turned out like my parents? What if the abuse was a cycle I couldn't break? What if I damaged my children the way I had been damaged? Dr. Klein helped me work through those fears. You're not your parents, she told me in one of our sessions. You're aware of what abuse looks like. You're committed to being different. That awareness alone breaks the cycle. But what if it's not enough? What if I lose my temper one day and then you'll apologize and do better? You'll seek help. You'll make sure your child knows they're loved and valued. Chloe, you've spent years learning how to treat yourself with respect and kindness. You know how to do that for others too. You're not going to repeat your parents' mistakes. How can you be so sure? Because you're here. Because you're still in therapy 5 years after the trauma ended. Because you're asking these questions instead of assuming you'll be fine. Your parents never questioned themselves. They never wondered if they were doing harm. That's the difference. We decided to try for a baby. It took a while longer than we expected, and there were moments of doubt and fear and grief. But eventually it happened. I got pregnant. And the day I saw that positive test, I made a promise to the tiny cluster of cells inside me. I will love you unconditionally. I will support your dreams. I will never make you earn my affection. You will always know you matter. Pregnancy was hard. Not just physically, but emotionally. Every milestone brought up memories of my own childhood. Every ultrasound made me think about how my mother never wanted me. Every kick reminded me that I was going to be someone's mother, and I was terrified of getting it wrong. But Daniel was there, Dr. Klein was there, my chosen family was there, and slowly I started to believe I could do this. I could be the mother I never had. We had a daughter. We named her Maya. She was perfect. Tiny and wrinkled and screaming and absolutely perfect. When the nurses placed her in my arms for the first time, I looked down at her face and felt a love so fierce it took my breath away. This is what it should have felt like, I thought. This is what my mother should have felt when she looked at me. How could she have not felt this? The first year of Maya's life was exhausting and beautiful and healing in ways I didn't expect. Every time I comforted her when she cried, I was showing myself that children deserve comfort. Every time I celebrated her small achievements, I was proving that children deserve celebration. Every time I told her I loved her, I was rewriting the script I had been given. Daniel was an amazing father, patient and playful and present in all the ways my father never was. Watching him with Maya healed something in me too. This is what fathers should be. This is what family should look like. One afternoon, when Maya was about 18 months old, I took her to the park. We were playing on the swings when I saw an elderly woman watching us from a bench. She looked familiar, but I couldn't place her. Then she stood up and started walking toward us. My blood ran cold. It was Mom. She looked even older than the last time I had seen her. Her hair was completely white now, her face deeply lined. She walked with a slight limp, leaning on a cane. Chloe. I instinctively pulled Maya closer. Eleanor. Is that? Her eyes were on Maya, hungry and sad. My daughter. Yes. She's beautiful. What's her name? I didn't want to tell her. Didn't want to give her even that small piece of information. But Maya was right there listening, and I didn't want to model rudeness or secrecy. Maya. Her name is Maya. That's a lovely name. Eleanor's voice cracked. She looks like you did at that age. I didn't respond. I just stood there holding my daughter, waiting for whatever came next. I know I have no right to ask, Eleanor said. I know I destroyed any chance of being part of your life. But could I hold her? Just for a moment, please. No. The word came out firm and clear. No hesitation, no guilt, just no. Please. I'm her grandmother. Biologically, yes. But you're not family. You gave up any claim to that when you spent 25 years abusing me. I've changed. Maybe you have. But that doesn't erase what you did. That doesn't mean I owe you access to my child. That doesn't mean I'm willing to risk her safety and well-being to give you a second chance. I would never hurt her. You said you loved me too, and you hurt me every single day of my childhood. So forgive me if I don't trust your promises. Tears were streaming down Eleanor's face now. I just want a chance to do better. To be the grandmother I never was as a mother. You don't get that chance. Some things can't be fixed. Some relationships can't be repaired. This is one of them. So I'll never see her. Never know her. No. You won't. And that's the consequence of your choices. You chose to abuse me. You chose to exploit me. You chose fraud over honesty, cruelty over kindness. Now you live with what you chose. Please. She reached out toward Maya. I stepped back. Don't touch her. Don't come near us. If you try to contact me or my family again, I'll file for a restraining order. Do you understand? Eleanor sobbed openly now. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. But sorry isn't enough. Sorry will never be enough. I turned and walked away. Maya looked up at me with curious eyes. Who was that, Mama? No one important, baby. No one important at all. That night I told Daniel what had happened. He immediately asked if I wanted to file for the restraining order preemptively. I thought about it but decided against it. She had respected my boundaries when I told her to leave. If that changed, I'd take legal action. But for now, I just wanted to move on. Dr. Klein and I talked about the encounter in our next session. How did it feel, she asked. Powerful. I didn't waver. I didn't feel guilty. I protected my daughter without hesitation. That's growth. It absolutely is. You set a clear boundary and enforced it. That's exactly what you needed to do. I don't think I'll ever hear from her again. I think she finally understands that some bridges are burned beyond repair. How do you feel about that? Sad, maybe. Not for her, but for the relationship we could have had if she had been different. For the grandmother Maya will never know. But also relieved. Protecting my daughter felt right in a way nothing else ever has. I finally understand what it means to put someone else's needs first out of love instead of obligation. That's beautiful, Chloe. And you should be proud of yourself. I am. For the first time in my life, I actually am proud of myself. The years passed. Maya grew into a bright, curious, confident child. She was everything I never got to be. She asked questions and got answers. She made mistakes and got hugs instead of punishment. She was celebrated for being herself, not for living up to impossible standards. Watching her grow up healed parts of me I didn't even know were broken. When Maya was 5, she asked about my parents. It was a simple question, innocent. We were looking at her friends' drawings of family trees for a school project. Mama, where are your mommy and daddy? Don't I have grandparents? Daniel and I had discussed how to handle this conversation. We knew it would come eventually. I sat down with Maya and took her small hands in mine. You have grandparents, baby. But they're not safe people. They hurt me when I was growing up. So I don't talk to them anymore. To keep myself safe and to keep you safe. Did they hit you? Sometimes. but mostly they hurt my feelings. They made me feel like I didn't matter. And I decided when I grew up that I wouldn't let people treat me that way anymore. That's sad. It is sad. But you know what? I learned something important from it. I learned how not to treat people. I learned that everyone deserves kindness and respect. And I learned that sometimes the family you choose is more important than the family you're born into. What's a family you choose? Friends who love you. People who support you. Like Uncle Marcus and Aunt Sarah and everyone who came to your birthday party. They're not related to us by blood, but they're family because we love each other and take care of each other. Oh, like my friend Emma. She's like a sister even though she's not really my sister. Exactly like that. Okay. She seemed satisfied with that answer. Can I still draw a family tree? Of course. Draw me and Daddy and you. That's our family. And you can add anyone else who makes you feel loved and safe. She drew a tree with the three of us in the center, and then added branches for Daniel's parents who were wonderful grandparents to Maya. She added Marcus the lawyer who had become a close friend over the years. She added Sarah the private investigator who sent Maya birthday presents and came to her recitals. She added neighbors and teachers and friends. Her tree was full of love and connections. It was beautiful. When Maya was 7, I got a call from a hospital social worker. Eleanor Williams had been admitted with advanced stage cancer. She had maybe weeks left. She was asking for me. I don't want to see her, I told the social worker. She's very insistent. She says she needs to talk to you before she dies. To make peace. She had 25 years to make peace. She doesn't get to demand my presence now just because she's dying. I understand. But sometimes closure can be healing for the surviving family member too. You might regret not going. Or I might regret going and opening old wounds. I appreciate you calling, but my answer is no. I hung up and immediately called Dr. Klein for an emergency session. We talked through my feelings. The guilt that was creeping in despite everything. The voice in my head saying, what if she really has changed? What if you regret this? What if you're being cruel? But Dr. Klein reminded me of something important. You don't owe her anything. Not forgiveness, not closure, not a deathbed reconciliation. You've built a good life despite her, not because of her. You don't need her permission or blessing or apology to continue living that life. But what if I regret it later? What if you don't? What if you go and she says something hurtful? What if she uses her last moments to manipulate you one more time? What if seeing her sets back years of healing? You have to weigh the risk against the potential benefit. And from everything you've told me, the risk is much higher. She was right. I didn't go. Eleanor died 2 weeks later. I got a notification from the hospital. I felt nothing. No grief, no relief, nothing. Just emptiness where there should have been feeling. Richard called me a few days after Eleanor died. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won out. Chloe. His voice sounded old and tired. Richard, your mother passed. I thought you should know. I know. The hospital called. There's a funeral. Small service. Just immediate family. I thought maybe you'd want to come. To say goodbye. I said goodbye to her years ago. When I decided to stop letting her hurt me. She wanted to see you before she died. She died hoping you'd come. That was her choice. Just like abusing me was her choice. Just like stealing from me was her choice. I don't feel guilty about protecting myself from her. Not even now. Silence on the other end. Then you've become very hard, Chloe. No. I've become very strong. There's a difference. Hard people hurt others. Strong people protect themselves. I suppose. He sighed. Well, I thought I'd offer. Serena will be at the funeral if you change your mind. I won't change my mind. But thank you for letting me know. Before you go, can I ask you something? What? Are you happy? The question surprised me. Yes, I am. Very happy. Good. That's good. That's what I wanted to hear. Another pause. I'm glad you got out, Chloe. I'm glad you saved yourself. I wish I had been the kind of father who gave you a life worth living instead of one you had to escape from. But since I wasn't, I'm glad you found happiness anyway. Goodbye, Richard. Goodbye, Chloe. I hung up and sat with the conversation for a while. Daniel found me on the couch, staring at nothing. You okay? My mother died. Oh. He sat next to me and pulled me close. How do you feel? I don't know. Like a chapter just closed, but I wasn't really reading it anymore anyway. Like something ended that ended a long time ago. Do you want to go to the funeral? No. There's nothing there for me. Just ghosts of who they were and who I used to be. I don't need to see that. Okay. He kissed my forehead. Whatever you need, I'm here. What I needed was to focus on my present, not my past. Maya had a dance recital that weekend. My business had 3 new clients starting projects. Daniel and I had plans to renovate the kitchen. Life was full of good things, real things, things that mattered. I didn't have space for grief over a woman who had never really been a mother to me. The years continued to pass. Maya grew into a teenager, all long legs and opinions and confidence that took my breath away. She was so sure of herself in a way I never was at her age. She advocated for herself. She set boundaries. She knew her worth. Raising her showed me what childhood should have looked like. When Maya was 14, she came to me with questions about my childhood. She was studying family dynamics in her psychology class, and it had made her curious. "Mama, you never talk about growing up. What was it like?" I had known this conversation would come eventually. I had prepared for it with Dr. Klein's help. I sat Maya down and told her the truth. Not all the details, nothing too graphic for a 14-year-old, but the truth. That my parents had been abusive, that they had hurt me emotionally and financially, that I had to take them to court to protect myself, that I had chosen to have no relationship with them to keep myself and my family safe. Maya listened quietly, her face growing more troubled as I talked. When I finished, she threw her arms around me. "I'm so sorry, Mama. That's so unfair. You deserved better." "I did. But I got through it. And I made sure you would never experience what I did. You're an amazing mom. Like, seriously. The best. I know I don't say it enough, but you are. Thank you, baby. That means everything to me." "Did you ever forgive them before they died?" I thought about how to answer that. No. I didn't. Some people think you have to forgive to move on, but I don't believe that. I moved on by accepting what happened, processing the trauma, and choosing to build a different life. Forgiveness would have required them to genuinely change and make amends, and they never really did that. They said sorry, but sorry isn't the same as changed behavior. That makes sense. My teacher says forgiveness is always the right choice, but I disagree. Some things are unforgivable. I think you're right. And I think it's okay to walk away from people who hurt you, even if they're family. Especially if they're family. I'm glad you walked away. Because if you hadn't, you wouldn't have built this life. And I wouldn't exist. She was right. My suffering had led to my salvation, and my salvation had led to her. It was a strange kind of alchemy, turning pain into purpose, trauma into triumph. When Maya was 16, Serena reached out again. This time through social media. She sent me a friend request on Facebook with a message attached. "Chloe, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know I have no right to contact you. But I've been sober for 3 years now. I've been in therapy. I've been working on myself. And part of my recovery is making amends to the people I've hurt. You're at the top of that list. I know I was terrible to you. I know I participated in your abuse and benefited from it and never once stood up for you. I know I was cruel and selfish and blind to your pain. I've spent years unpacking why I was like that. How I was conditioned to see you as less than human. How I was taught that your suffering was entertainment. How I never questioned the narrative our parents fed me. But explanations aren't excuses. I was old enough to know better. I was old enough to choose kindness. I didn't, and I'm sorry. I'm so deeply, truly sorry. I'm not asking for a relationship. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just asking you to know that I see it now. I see what was done to you. I see my role in it. And I'm spending the rest of my life trying to be a better person than I was. If you ever want to talk, I'm here. If you never want to hear from me again, I understand that too. Either way, I hope you're living your best life. You deserve that." I showed the message to Daniel and Maya. They both read it carefully. Maya spoke first. "What are you going to do?" "I don't know. Part of me wants to ignore it. Part of me is curious if she really has changed." "You don't owe her anything," Daniel said. "Not a response, not a conversation, nothing." "I know. But maybe I owe it to myself, to see if there's any possibility of closure." "That's fair. Just be careful. Make sure you're protecting yourself." I thought about it for a week. Then I responded. "Serena, I got your message. I appreciate you reaching out and acknowledging what happened. I'm not ready for a relationship, and I may never be. But I'm willing to talk. Once. In a public place. With my husband present. If you can respect those boundaries, let me know." She responded immediately. "Yes, absolutely. Whatever you need, thank you for giving me this chance." We met at a coffee shop 2 weeks later. I brought Daniel. Serena came alone. She looked different than I remembered. Older, obviously, but also softer somehow. Less polished. She wore jeans and a simple sweater, no designer labels in sight. Her hair was pulled back in a plain ponytail. She looked nervous. We sat down. The silence stretched awkwardly. Finally, Serena spoke. "Thank you for meeting me. I wasn't sure you would. I wasn't sure I would either. You look good. Healthy. Happy. I am happy. I have a good life. A husband who loves me. A daughter who's amazing. A business that's successful. I built all of that despite everything that happened. Not because of it, despite it. That's incredible. Really. I'm genuinely happy for you. What about you? What have you been doing?" She took a deep breath. "I've been working as a counselor at a domestic violence shelter, helping women escape abusive situations. It's my way of trying to make amends. To use what I learned from being complicit in your abuse to help others. That's good work. It's hard work. Every woman I talk to reminds me of you, of what you went through, of how I made it worse." She wiped at her eyes. "I see you in all of them. And I'm trying to give them what I should have given you. Support, belief, help escaping. Why didn't you help me? That's what I've never understood. You saw what they were doing. Why didn't you ever stand up for me? Because I was taught from birth that you didn't matter. That you were less than. That your pain was acceptable, even funny. I was conditioned just like you were, just in a different way. You were conditioned to accept abuse. I was conditioned to inflict it." She looked directly at me, but I was also old enough to know better, old enough to choose differently, and I didn't. "That's on me. Not them. Me. What changed? What made you see it differently?" "Rock bottom. I had a breakdown 5 years ago. Complete mental collapse. I couldn't understand why I was so miserable when I had supposedly been given everything. Why I felt so empty. Why I had no real relationships, no one who actually cared about me. In therapy, we traced it all back, and I realized that I had been taught wrong, that the way we treated you was abuse, that I had participated in something monstrous, and I couldn't live with that anymore. So, you got sober and started helping people. I got sober and started trying to become someone I could respect. I'm not there yet. I may never be there. But I'm trying." We talked for 2 hours. She asked about Maya and I showed her pictures but made it clear she would never meet her. She told me about her work, her therapy, her ongoing struggle with guilt and shame. She cried several times. I didn't cry at all. I had cried enough tears over this family. I had none left for Serena. At the end, as we were getting up to leave, she asked one more question. "Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me?" "I don't know. Maybe someday. But probably not. What you all did, changed the entire trajectory of my life. I had to rebuild myself from nothing. I had to learn how to be a person because you taught me I wasn't one. That's not something that gets forgiven with an apology and some therapy sessions. I understand. I don't blame you. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. And I'll keep being sorry for the rest of my life. Sorry doesn't fix anything, but I appreciate that you're trying to do better. That means something even if it doesn't change the past." We parted ways. I never saw her again. She sent occasional updates through email, always respectful of my boundaries. Photos of the shelter where she worked. Stories of women she had helped. Updates on her sobriety. I read them but rarely responded. She was trying to build a bridge I wasn't sure I wanted to cross, but I respected her effort. Life continued. Maya graduated high school with honors. She got into a great college planning to study psychology and social work. She wants to help people, she told me. People like you. People who survived trauma and came out stronger. I cried when she said that. Happy tears this time. Healing tears. My trauma had somehow created purpose in the next generation. Maya would help people because she had seen what trauma looked like and understood the importance of healing. Daniel and I celebrated our 15th anniversary. 15 years of marriage. 20 years together. He had been there for every moment of my healing journey, every breakthrough and every setback, every triumph and every moment of doubt. He had loved me when I didn't know how to love myself. He had shown me what family was supposed to look like. On our anniversary night, lying in bed after a beautiful dinner, he asked me a question. If you could go back and change your childhood, would you? I thought about it. It was tempting to say yes. To imagine a life without abuse, without trauma, without years of therapy and healing. But that life would have led to a different person. A different path. Different choices. No, I said finally. I wouldn't change it. Because changing it would mean losing this. Us. Maya. everything I've built. I'm not grateful for the abuse. I'll never be grateful for that. But I'm grateful for who I became in spite of it. For the strength I developed. For the compassion I learned. For the boundaries I can set. For the love I can give and receive. I earned all of that through surviving. I think that's the most profound thing you've ever said. I kissed him. I love you. Thank you for being the family I deserved all along. I love you too. Always. Now, years later, I sit on my balcony looking out at the city lights. Maya is in college thriving, Daniel is inside making dinner. My business is successful beyond anything I imagined. I have friends who love me. A life I built with my own hands. Security and peace and happiness. And I have scars. Physical ones from the chair that broke my ribs. Emotional ones from years of abuse. But those scars are part of my story. They're proof that I survived. They're evidence that I fought back. They're reminders that I'm stronger than anything that was done to me. My parents used to say that pain teaches you faster than anything else. They were right about that, but not in the way they meant. Pain did teach me. It taught me what abuse looks like, so I could recognize and reject it. It taught me my worth because I had to fight so hard to claim it. It taught me compassion because I knew what it felt like to be shown none. It taught me strength because I had to become strong to survive. But the real lesson wasn't about the pain they inflicted on me. It was about the pain they inflicted on themselves. They destroyed their own lives through their cruelty. They lost their daughter, their grandchild, their freedom, their reputation, everything. They taught themselves that some actions have consequences you can't escape. They learned that you can't abuse people forever without eventually facing justice. And I learned something too. I learned that I was never the problem. I was never worthless. I was never a burden. I was just a girl who deserved love and never got it from the people who should have given it freely. So I learned to love myself instead. And that was the greatest revenge of all. Now I want to ask you something. Have you ever felt invisible in your own family? Have you ever been told you weren't good enough? Have you ever had to choose between staying in a toxic situation and saving yourself? Drop a comment below and share your story. You're not alone. If this story touched you, if it made you think, if it gave you hope that things can get better, do me a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe to hear more stories of survival and strength. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Because here's what I learned. Pain might teach you fast, but so does love. Self-love. The love you give yourself when no one else will. The boundaries you set. The life you build when you finally walk away from people who only tear you down. I turned my scars into strength. And you can too. What will you choose? Will you stay, or will you save yourself? Think about it. And let me know in the comments below.